Welcome to Rising Together, Local Women Leading Differently, a podcast where we celebrate women, share resources, and tell the real stories of what it takes to lead and build differently. Here we believe visibility is power, collaboration is the antidote to competition, and vulnerability is the birthplace of trust. I'm Emma Malvani, a women's empowerment mentor, creating spaces for women to deepen their intuition, self-trust, and confidence in life and business. I'm honored to be your host and share these conversations with you. Welcome to Season 2 and this episode of the Rising Together podcast, where we have the pleasure of speaking with Dr. Erika Darbro, a distinguished expert in pelvic health. Erika is the founder of Envision Pelvic Health and Wellness, located in the Norwood Park neighborhood of Chicago. With a deep commitment to empowering women, Erika has built a practice that focuses on holistic and personalized care, helping her patients achieve better quality of life. In this episode, Dr. Erika shares her journey of establishing Envision Pelvic Health and Wellness, highlighting the importance of work-life balance and the challenges she faced in these early years of her practice. We delve into the empowering movement in women's health, where Erika discusses how women are now advocating for more and not settling for discomfort. Lastly, Erika provides insights into the unique approach her practice takes in treating pelvic health issues, emphasizing the importance of community and personalized care. This was a truly incredible conversation and one that really ignited me, and I hope it does the same for you. Let's get to it. Thank you for joining me for this.
Thank you for having me.
So excited. So I told you I have no notes. A lot of preparation.
Like off the cuff is better.
Yes. I feel like that's what magic is. So let's start with a question that I love is just what's real for you right now?
What's real? I think finding balance of being a business owner and a mom and a spouse, right? And I think always as women, we are always so hard on ourselves and like trying to balance mom guilt and being good at all of our jobs to everyone that, we're with. So I think right now that feels really real to me and like getting Envision up and going the first couple of years was just like, pure adrenaline, go, 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 go. And my why and like starting the business was to have more work-life balance and spend more time with my kids. And I think this winter, like I took a little bit of a pause and reclused a little bit and regrouped. And I'm like, am I hitting that goal? And honestly, I wasn't. And I'm like, I need to really get back to the why of like, why did I do this? So it feels real for me right now, just like trying to be more present with my kids while they're little because the time is going really quick.
Yeah. Oh, I love that.
Yeah.
So from someone like from the outside, like looking at your business, I'm like, oh my gosh, she's doing so many things. She looks so busy.
Yeah.
And I know that you are growing and like the success is real. It's not just like a highlight reel.
Yeah.
But with that idea of like balance in mind, what have you done differently like over this last season
Yeah.
to kind of bring?
And be honest, I'm still working on it.
Yeah.
It's like a work in progress always.
Really always,
Yeah, right. But I think the big thing was just like looking at, I think honestly some of the hard things that really had me start to look at how am I doing at being present with my family and my kids is my daughter, when I opened my business, she was 3 months old and now she's 2.5. And she started saying like, mommy's at work, mommy's going to work. Why are you working? Can you stay home? And I'm like, oh, those ones like cut you deep where I'm like, oh my gosh, like I don't want my kids to have this perception of like mom is always like with a laptop or like on a work call or here and there. And I think when I started hearing that from my kids, where it's like mom's going to work, mom has, another meeting or she'll be home after bedtime or something like that, I'm like, whoa, like I need to have a little bit better of a balance because I don't want that perception of my kids. And that's where I think at the end of last year, I hired my second full-time PT and the goal was to be able to just kind of like pull back a little bit personally where I'm putting this amazing team together to keep doing what I've built and what have you. But I'm really hoping just to be able to step back a little bit and like be more present for my kids.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I love that. I feel like I'm in a similar
Yeah.
realization just because and almost like it's funny because the journeys for at least, excuse me, like the timeline is almost like a little flipped for me as far as like I started my business when my daughter was 2 months and that was in the one business with nutrition. And now I feel like I'm starting like kind of like another business. Like I say, I kind of put that other one down, I closed it. And
And now I'm in that phase of like being really busy, but like also really loving it and like
Which
wanting
is
to spend more
okay.
time doing it,
Yeah.
right?
I think just giving yourself the grace of like knowing that it's okay
Hmm.
to lean into parts of your life and business of like it actually feels really good to like fulfill this other identity that I lost while I was a parent.
Yeah.
Or you know what I mean? Like
Yeah.
going through being a new mom, like we definitely like put ourselves aside to like meet their needs.
Mhm.
But then also like it does feel good to work, you know? Like I kudos so many like parents who are stay-at-home parents and like I don't know how you do it because like my intellectual brain and like my people like I love like to talk to people. I have to be out there.
Yeah.
So I just don't think I would be authentic to my full self if I didn't have that.
Yeah.
So, but I think it's okay to say that.
Yeah.
Because I think as women, we're like in the world, we're like, oh, no, your sole job is to do, you know, be a mom and that's your
Yeah.
identity. But also,
Yeah.
you can be like a really great business owner.
Yeah. Which I think like that's like the realization or the place that I feel like I'm at. It's
Yeah.
like I finally got that permission slip because for the longest time with my kids, like I knew right away I was not gonna be a good stay-at-home mom.
Yeah.
Like I thought this was like I had the vision
Yeah.
and I did want to we did want to like stay home. Like, but I realized within months I was like, oh, like I need something else. Like
Yeah.
my brain needs it. And then as I started to like explore, I was like, no, my soul needs it.
Yeah.
And but I was, like, trying to do it in this, like, really crunchy way because I felt so guilty.
Yeah.
So it was, like, arduous for, like, 4 years, and I was
Hmm.
like, "This is, like, not good." I was like I felt like I was, like, a not great mom, and now it's funny since having my last kid, the shift of how I experience both is
Hmm.
so different
Yeah.
because I feel now that I have the permission to enjoy, love, be lit up by my work, go to work and be like, Mom's going to work, but I'll be home soon. And like there's just a different energy to
Yeah.
it. And then I'm better at home. But
That's that's it.
it's like better for
Yeah.
everybody.
I
That like
agree.
I said, I was super stressed out a little while ago. This was like about a year ago. And I used to have this thing where I was like, okay, I'm done. I'm closing. I'm not doing this anymore. It's too hard. And my husband's like, we've been here. You cannot stop. If you stop, it gets worse. Like,
Yeah.
don't. You have to do this.
But
I was
that's
like, okay.
amazing that like they
Yeah.
recognize that in you. But I do think that like when I can like put in the time and like really do something I love doing in my business,
Mhm.
when I come home, I'm like in a better mood. I'm more present with my kids instead of being like, oh, I still need to do this. Like I can actually like do the thing and then close it off and then be present.
Mhm.
Um, and we shouldn't feel guilty about that,
No.
you know?
Yeah. But you have been very intentional, and I've spoken in the past about your growth
Yeah.
and the not just the strategy, although that's huge around, how you're growing and the ways you're growing. Um, but also the supports and foundations and like who you hire and,
Hmm.
creating those systems for you
Yeah.
to be able to get to a point where you could kind of pull back a little bit. Could you speak to?
Yeah. I think intention was my word for last year.
Mm,
Um, and for me, I think that's just innately part of who I am, and I like to have all the information about something before I make a decision, and I carry that through into my business as well. So everything that happens didn't happen out of luck. It was like thoughtfully prepared, and I think about well, if I do this, what could happen, and so I'm always in that way. But I'm also looking into the future too, like what team do I need to put in place to get Envision where it needs to be, get me where I want it to be, but also fulfill my employees,
mhm.
right? So I think that, my first hire, Dr. Allison, who you have met,
And
yeah, she's such a great human. Yeah. She's been a great, like, asset to
yeah.
the business and an amazing, like, first clinical hire.
Mhm.
But I spent almost 8 months with a job ad open on Indeed and posting in LinkedIn and, you know, I was busting at the seams. I was treating, like, over my utilization percent for my own, like, capacity,
Mhm.
with taking care of my kids and still working. But I knew that I didn't wanna compromise and just hire someone for the sake of, like, desperation. So I, like, had a communication, like, with my family, and I'm like, "Hey, like, I need to lean into this a little bit because I know in the future this is gonna pay off because I don't wanna make the wrong hiring decision. It can change the culture of the business." I already had a full-time admin who it was just the 2 of us, and we had great synergy, and that second hire, bringing a third person into a two-team person felt really scary, And I'm like, this can completely change the dynamic of my company. So yeah, it was a long 8 months, and I was interviewing, I had some not so great interviews, and I had some that I'm like, "I think this is a really good provider, I just don't think it's it." And, like, listening to my intuition of, like, "This isn't it," and it's not to say that that provider isn't a good provider,
Mhm.
right? But I needed someone exactly like Dr. Allison as my first clinical hire. She's ambitious, she's, excited, and she's a nerd like I am, and she's such, like, a good people person, and, um so yeah, I waited 8 months until I could find the perfect hire, and I'm, like, so glad that I did because she's been a huge asset for the company. And then true to the second hire, this one happened a little quicker. I think that just having the business longer, the name is out there. This person was known to us in the public PT world, which is very small. So I knew of her. We used to work for the same company, so I think it was just a natural progression. And again, like the four of us click really well, but like that was all intentional. Of like these are personalities I know are going to go well together. I tend to be more outgoing. My admin, Mandy, tends to be a little bit more introverted, but she's amazing one on one with people. That's why she's excellent at her job in front, right? So it's like picking the right personalities and strengths of the team.
Mhm.
That's all been very intentional.
Have you always kind of led more intuitively like that?
Yeah.
Like trusting,
Yeah.
timing, and the
And as a kid, I feel like you didn't understand it,
yeah.
and you couldn't put a word to it. And then as you get into like adulthood, or I'm like, it's intuitive. It's not everybody has that thought process. And I think taking some like strengths tests and stuff, I found that out about myself where I'm like, oh, not everyone thinks that way or can see things that way. They have other strengths that maybe I don't have or something like that. So that's been like eye opening.
Yeah. Well, owning it as a strength too,
Yeah.
because I feel like as women, we're so conditioned to not like just lean into
Hmm.
not having the logical explanation or
Yeah.
like, have your reasoning and have your
Yeah.
justification for why you're making the
Sometimes you
decision.
might not. It's just like
Yeah. When it's just like, no, it just
what you
feels
feel.
that this
Hmm.
is right or
Yeah.
this is not right. And trusting the timing
Yeah.
of things.
Yeah.
Yeah. What was that like for your family or even just like conversationally when you were saying like, I need to lean into just
Yeah.
trusting the time of this?
I just have I have an awesome family support at home and friends. Like I have amazing friends who are always, even if I can't text back or I'm not like, you know, actively being like the best friend right now because they know I'm just like in a really
Yeah.
big growth phase of the business, but just those little cheers in the back of being like, you're doing great, you're crushing it, we're proud of you. Those things mean a lot. And I feel like you know, things, whether you think they happen by chance or not, I don't think so. But I think that sometimes days that are really hard where you're just having like a bad energy day or you're just like really beating yourself up, like those people who reach out to you at the right time where they're like, you're crushing it, keep it up, or, like you inspired me, or and then patient stories too. Like we get these testimonials sometimes where I'm like, oh, I really needed to hear that because
Mhm.
sometimes I'm like, oh my gosh, everything's like coming down on me. But I think truly it's just like having that support, not even just like family support, but the community. And we've spoke about that, just like having this community of women around us who are like, we're all in it,
Mhm.
like we're all beating ourselves up. We're all like trying to do our best for our families and our businesses, and we're real. And I think that just getting down to that of like just supporting each other.
Yeah.
Right. And sometimes I'll just like text, some other business owner friends that I have, or I'm just like, hope you're having a great day. I don't know. I just thought of you. And it was
Mhm.
a day that they were having a really awful day. So it's like
Yeah.
that intuition of like, I wonder how so and so is doing today.
Yeah. I love that. And it's actually come up in many threads of conversation this week.
Yeah.
Like when you get that ping to like send a message,
Do it.
do it.
Yeah.
Like instead of like letting your mind come in and say like, oh, they'll think I'm weird. Like twice this week I did that where I was just
Hmm.
like, I don't know, I'm following a nudge.
Yeah.
And for one of them, it was kind of like a professional thing. And I was like, this is gonna sound really random, but like I'm following this nudge. And she was like, this
Thank you.
met me
Yeah.
at the perfect time.
Yeah.
And then like yesterday, like just feeling buoyed by like
Yeah.
your messages and like just people like when you get in your own way or in your own head sometimes to have these women come that are just like so ready and willing to
Hmm.
just lift you up is
Yeah.
like it's everything.
It
'Cause it's
is.
so easy to just be like, okay, I'm done, I'm defeated. Like,
Yeah.
forget it.
We're so hard on ourselves. And I think society tends to be so hard on women, right? From all different aspects. But I just think that, I don't know, I think that the culture that we're building right now and women supporting women and building each other up, like it's a powerful movement. Like we've been taken down for centuries and we have to lean on each other. And I think it's a really it's a powerful moment. And I really think that like what our generation is doing, I'm really excited to see how that will be for like my daughter, right? Of just like giving her a voice and empowering her. And yeah.
Yeah. Well, like seeing what's possible
Mm-hmm.
from a business perspective too. That like for me, my business started to really, I feel like, get life when I got out and like
Mm-hmm.
got into community. And what I love in the women's business world of talking now is like really that like reclamation of collaboration
Mm-hmm.
over competition and
Yeah.
like how much it's really influencing and impacting and elevating
Yeah.
these businesses
Mm-hmm.
that like otherwise you'd be grinding or maybe wouldn't be quite seeing the results or the impact that you
Right.
desire. But like with community,
Yeah.
it's having a much larger impact economically
Totally.
too. That's
Yeah.
so inspiring.
Yeah.
I love that you're part of it. So one more business question,
Yeah.
and then I want to talk about the PT, obviously. Um, so your practice opened 2 years ago?
October 2023.
Okay. And I'm astounded at the growth that you've undergone. What are some of the things that you feel contributed the most to your growth?
Yeah,
What can you
it's an
steal?
interesting question. I just think back and I know that, I spoke about this a little bit too, like on the panel that you
Mhm.
had us with and stuff like
Yeah, please
that.
reiterate that.
Yeah, I think
Wait.
it's hard because when I made the decision to open up my own practice, honestly, it was out of like necessity. Um, I didn't love where the medical field was going, especially PT, where, these larger box chains are prioritizing metrics and quantity over quality. And for pelvic health, that just doesn't align. And it was probably another pivotal point in my personal life. We were going through infertility. So I had this big personal thing going on, plus this like conflict of like my ethics and what I thought was morally right or wrong regarding patient care. Right. So I had this epiphany. I'll remember it was fall of 2022. And I remember coming home one day and I just like broke down, like between the, the fertility journey. I had a toddler at home that needed me to be present as well. Uh, Still in that like COVID era of just like,
Yeah.
what are we? And like trying to recoup with like relationships that you couldn't see each other physically for a year, you know? I just remember coming home from work one day and I had so many notes to do because you can't document while you're working with pelvic health because you're very hands on. And I want to be present for my patients. So the sacrifice that I would make was doing all of my notes at home and, a salaried employee, you didn't get paid for that. So I just remember like I was so behind on notes. It was the end of a month and in the PT world, at the end of the month, you have to have your notes done by end of month. Billing has to be done and you get pressure from above, right? And so I have all these things going on and I was just like, what am I doing? Like, this is miserable. This is not why I went into physical therapy. I'm not happy. I'm not mentally healthy. I'm not physically healthy. I'm not providing the care I want. Um, and I would just like dissect the day where I'm like, I wish I could have given that patient more time. Or I didn't even get to that because I didn't have time because I had another patient out on the bike and I know how to start her. And it was just like crumbling. And I was like, you know what? I'm done. Like I had to make a pivotal decision where I'm like, okay, what else am I good at? I'm really good at like organization. I really want to be a national park ranger. Like I love outdoors, I love hiking, I love organization. How can I like do something else? Or I have to open up my own thing and like do it. Like do it the way that I truly think that pelvic PT should be done. So that was fall of 2022. I let that ruminate. March of 2023, I actually registered my LLC to PLLC. And at that time, I was, gosh, 5 months pregnant
Oh my gosh.
with Addie. So I registered my PLLC in March of 23. I had my daughter in July of 23, quit my job when I was on mat leave. Yeah. Like they knew I wasn't coming back. It was very much everyone knew I wasn't coming back. I wasn't shy about that.
And then you could like go.
Totally. Yeah, yeah. So I had her July of 2023 and then signed my lease in the end of August of 2023. Technically didn't take over possession of that until the end of September 2023. And I saw my first patient the first week of October 2023. So that was the journey to Envision. Um, when I started it, I never thought I'm going to open a business and I'm going to have a staff of X, Y, Z,
Hmm.
and I'm going to see these many people. It was truly out of like, I just want to have something that's my own, do it the way that I want to do it.
Mhm.
And it grew quickly, um, really quickly, actually, which was great and not anticipated. And I was quickly running out of my capacity to take on patients.
Mm.
And I hired my first employee admin about 4.5, 5 months into owning the business. She came on with me in the spring of 2024. So it was the two of us, and even having her just allowed me to be able to treat a little bit more
Yeah,
because
I
it
can
was,
imagine doing all the admin shit.
yeah,
Uh,
because I would try to leave like a 15-minute buffer between patients to like let the person in, lock the door,
Mhm.
clean the room,
Yeah.
check them out, like. So just having her allowed me just to do back to back patients and a little bit more efficient so I could get more people in. Um, but yeah, I just think it grew quickly, and I think a lot of it is because people were seeing what I was doing and people were needing what I was doing. Pelvic has blown up, pelvic PT has blown up the knowledge about it in the last 5, 7 years, I think, even more so. When I was in physical therapy school, it was like we knew about it, but it wasn't like a trendy
Oh.
fun thing to
Mhm.
do. You were kind of weird if you like did it. Um, but now it's like amazing. And there's like so
Yeah.
many people that are actually going to PT school to be public PTs, right? Or it's like so cool.
Yeah.
Um,
Why do you think it's blown up so much?
I think we're in a movement. I think that women are like no longer chalking it up of like, this is my body. I have to accept it the way it is. I
Mhm.
think we're empowering women to seek and ask for more and advocate for more. I mean, the movement right now is really empowering,
Mhm.
right? Of just like, you don't have to live with pain. You don't have to deal with leaking. Symptoms of perimenopause and menopause are treatable, right? And you can have a better quality of life and just like not accepting, like, well, you had a kid, of course,
Mhm.
like,
Yeah.
no, like, okay, so I had a kid.
Yeah.
There's better quality of life out there for me. So I think that more women are definitely talking about things more to each other, where conversations might have been like, "Oh, that's embarrassing to talk about peeing yourself," or
Mhm.
"I'm having difficulty with like pooping," or "Sex is painful," and people would never talk about that. But now it's like conversation, yeah, and it's like, I'm here for it,
Yeah.
or like nothing is TMI
Mhm.
in my world, right? But I think that just the people are being more vulnerable, they're talking about it, they're sharing, like we get a lot of patients who are, you saw my friend, you saw my cousin, you saw my mom, right? And so it's this like trickle effect and impact where it's like, oh my gosh, like she's going to a trampoline park.
Mhm.
3 months ago, she could not go to a trampoline park. I want what she's having,
Yeah.
right?
Oh, yeah. Well, and I think this could be like part of it is what I learned was how much the pelvic floor is related to everything else. So
Yeah.
even if I was like not experiencing a specific symptom there, I was feeling something in my neck or I was feeling something in my back or like even my wider hips or something. And learning and having that awareness, like, oh, which is just my belief and knowledge in general, but everything's
So
connected.
connected.
And so I went to, I think it was after my second daughter, I went to a PT,
Mhm.
but they were so kind of in their Western silo that
Yeah.
like they could not see or whatever their restrictions were as far as like they were not making that connection that I was like, no, this part up here I feel is related to
Yeah.
like not directly related to the pelvic floor because at the time I wasn't completely educated and aware, but I was like, but it's related to the fact that I had a baby. Like
Yeah,
things have
totally.
readjusted. There's a lot more strain in different areas. Like things did not go back the way
Mhm.
that they were before. And not that I expected them to, but I was like, this is inhibiting my function on a
Yeah.
daily basis. And then it wasn't until I went to first a workshop at your
Yes.
practice, which like put all these docs together for me. And then seeing Allison that I
Mhm.
was like, this sounds silly is that like this is medicine for women, but like medicine on just like a cellular soul level
Well,
in a
somebody
way
finally
of like,
listening to your symptoms, right?
yeah.
That's
And
empowering.
she was making connections without even me having to say, like, that
Mhm.
this is what's happening, and she was like, "Do you experience this?" I'm like, "Yes."
Mhm.
Like, I thought that was completely
Yeah.
unrelated, and she's like, "No," and, like, just so it was, like, after 4 or 5 sessions with her, and I was, like, crying to my husband, I was like, "I didn't know I could feel
Yeah.
this good and this,
Yeah.
like, restored," and it
Yeah.
was just a phenomenal experience.
Yeah. I think some of that, like back to your first experience with pelvic PT, is it's not necessarily that that provider didn't know, right? Like, but I truly believe that there's a lot of providers that are in constraints of a system, but they're not able to literally think outside the pelvis, right? Or treat outside the pelvis. And I think systemically that comes down to the healthcare model and especially with insurance, right? So I think a lot of people don't understand that when you have a script for PT or not, right? But if you're utilizing and going and using your insurance and you're coming in with, let's say, hip pain, right? Like right hip pain, that's on your eval, they put that diagnosis code on you and then you start your treatment, right? And then if you came in, you're like, oh, the kid had a bad night. I slept upright in the armchair and my neck is like, can't turn it. Technically, in order to treat the neck in that visit, it has to be on the code. Like it has to be included in that plan of care, right? So a couple things could happen. They could include the code and do like a reevaluation or a progress note and add the code in. But that's time, that's documentation and stuff like that. So I think that there tends to be some barriers for physical therapists to be able to do that. Um, and that's why I have the model that I do, right? With being, we don't bill insurance. We're not contracted with insurance. We treat whatever you need when you come in. Sometimes patients will come in and we need to treat the neck or the foot or, what have you, because at the end of the day, it is all connected. It is driving that pelvic health. And we want to be able to do that because that's going to get people lasting results, right? Um, so I think it's just like sometimes there's just barriers that are in place, and it's not to say that those aren't good therapists, right? And I do think that having, now that I have myself and two PTs underneath me we all came from an insurance model, right? We were all amazing PTs in that model, even with the constraints that we were given with time constraints, ability to treat everything. And in a safe environment, right? A quiet, safe environment. But taking us out of that and plopping us into this model that we are in, we are all better PTs because of it. I have seen that happen for myself where I'm like, oh my gosh, like I have the time, I have the freedom, I'm excited, I have like so many things, and like that comes through to your patient care. And then I've seen that in Dr. Allison, I'm seeing that in Kelly, Dr. Kelly, who just started, that's okay. Like 2 months ago, like I'm seeing them just like bloom with their ability to actually just like treat the human that's in front of them without the constraints of can I code for that? Can I bill for that? How long can I keep them? Are they going to get cut off? Are they? So it's just taking away those barriers. It's like treating the person in front of us.
So why PT or why pelvic?
For me
Say.
specifically,
Mhm.
yeah. Um, when I went to PT school, I thought I was going to be a neuro PT to like work with individuals with like neurological disorders. My grandfather had Parkinson's disease back in the 90s, and just watching him deteriorate. And like that was a big pull for me of just like, I want to help these people. There's so much we could have done for him, I think, in the time, but in the 90s, the treatment isn't where it is now for people with Parkinson's disease. And so I went to PT school, ready to be a neuro PT. And our neuro teacher at my school was phenomenal. She's like known nationally. She's amazing, right? And I hated it. Like, I was like, this is horrible. Like, I did not love knowing all about, like how these things cross over from the brain and like working with this stuff. And I was like, oh no, like, this is why I'm here. So then I was like, okay, quickly, like, I really just did not love that. And I love people that love that. That's just not for me. I even did a clinical on it where I was like, I'm going to just make sure, and I worked I had a clinical at Schwab Rehab in Chicago. So it was very, critical cases and working in rehab. I loved my experience. I learned a lot from it, but just like, not for me. This isn't what I want to do every day. So then I was like, crap, now what? And, I've been an athlete my whole life. I still am like a weekend warrior, even though my body's like, please stop. But, so I was like, great, I'm going to be an ortho PT. I'm going to go into ortho. I'm going to work with athletes. This is awesome. And so I was really excited about it. I had a couple of clinicals in that and I was good at it. Like I really enjoyed it.
I could see you being really good at that.
Yeah, I liked it a lot. And I think that I treat from an orthopelvic perspective because it is very biomechanical. But my last clinical, there was a pelvic PT in the clinic. It was an orthopelvic. She was an orthopelvic PT, and so she had the general ortho post ACLs and marathon runners and ankles and shoulders and stuff like that. But she did have a percentage of her schedule that was pelvic. And, she'd walk them back into a private room and doors shut, and people would come out so happy and they loved her. She had like the biggest following. And I was like, what is she? That's amazing. Like she's making a huge impact in lives. Not to say that, we weren't doing orthopedic PT, but so I started shadowing her in my fourth clinical, and I was a third year PT student, and I ended up taking a job with that company. She was my mentor, as well as a couple of other pelvic PTs in that company. And yeah, so right away, like I graduated in April, I started working there in June on a temp license before I took my board exam. But I was treating pelvic from day one, from an ortho lens, right? But within the first year of treating, I went through all of the didactic foundational pelvic floor courses because I was just like, I want to know everything. Like, this is exciting. I'm just putting these pieces together. So I went through the coursework really quickly and paid for a lot of it on my own because we get like allowances for like Con Ed. But I was like, well, no, I need to be able to treat that and I need to know how to do this. And, so I went through it really quickly and I'm just like so passionate about it. I was a pelvic PT before I had kids. And just being able to make the impact in people's lives for things that are so vulnerable and intimate and silent, especially with pelvic pain, like those have been, it's just so rewarding to me. And then since becoming a mom and going through that change, it's definitely changed who I am as a pelvic PT. I can empathize better with my patients now. Um, and I see things differently and I understand in my own body how things have changed through my birthing experiences. So I can see that quicker, I think, in patients and make those parallels where when you haven't had kiddos yourself, you're like, well, I can assume that the body is doing XYZ. But when you're like living it, you're like, oh, yeah, that's different, right? We're like, man, that hits home, right? So definitely being a parent has changed me as a PT. Not to say that you can't be a pelvic PT and not have kiddos, but it has changed my experience with it. But I don't know. I love what I do. I think that it takes a special human to be able to be a pelvic therapist. It's a striking a balance of being obviously professional because of the areas that we're working in and gaining trust, but also being real and making things light where like some things are just silly and like funny. Like, like we all poop and we pee and we toot and we have sex and it's just like normalizing those things. But I think you have to have the right personality to make your patient in that room feel comfortable and safe and know that like you're going to help guide them through this experience.
Yeah.
So
That is something you guys do really well, is taking something that could be very uncomfortable and make it comfortable. Like talking about it, learning about it, exploring it, like treating it, all of it.
Yeah. And I think too, like even just the experience of, we hear this all the time of patients that come into Envision of just like how nice it is knowing that every human that walks through that door is also on a journey to pelvic health, right? Where you're not walking through that door and that's like a 16-year-old rehabbing an ACL and that's a 70-year-old working on gait balance, right? Like every human who walks through a Vision store is working on pelvic health. They're dealing with very similar things in some capacity, right? They're all scared, right? But when they come in and they see the space and they see us and they see that like, oh, like this is normal, it just like brings their nervous systems down. I think that in itself is powering, knowing that everyone in the waiting room with you, walking similar journeys, and just, that's been really impactful, I think, where, I think that there's great, some people choose like business models to do like mobile pelvic PT, which is also phenomenal because you're meeting people literally where they're at, of like new mom or like you can't get the baby out or taking the kids all the way to a clinic can be really like a constraint, right? And being able to be in their house and like see their day to day and stuff like that, there's so much value there, right? But also, I think having the clinical space where people are around other people, you start to see people in the gym space where you're like, hey, how are you? And you just have that camaraderie. I think that community is healing.
Yeah. What has community meant for you personally?
Business community.
I mean, yeah,
I love meeting people. I think, I don't know, I love learning something. Every person that I communicate with, and I'm like that annoying person that like will strike up a conversation with like the cashier.
That's the stuff that I like more of. It's like those little
well, it's just like learning about people
there quietly.
Right. Yeah. How are you? Let's make this human, right? I don't know. I just really like connecting with people. I learn something from every person that I meet. And I'm just generally like interested in like other people's walks of life, their experiences. I like to learn as much as I can. Because it will lend into a conversation down the road, where like always I can like at least make some connection with a patient where it's like, oh, I actually know a little bit about that because I met that random person, at the coffee shop or something, right? Um, but I think community for me is just I need it. Like I need to be around people, not even necessarily like-minded, because I actually enjoy being around people that maybe challenge my thoughts on my business, being a PT, right? Or ways that I treat that are different than ways that other PTs treat. I actually enjoy that kind of like, well, how are you seeing that? Like,
Yeah.
how can I learn from that, right?
Mhm.
All the way down to world events and stuff like that, right?
Mhm.
Um, but I like to be around people. I get energy from people. I think I strike a balance of like I love meeting people, but then I like to go home,
Mhm.
right? Or it's like
Yeah.
this balance of like, okay, that's enough.
Yeah.
Like, let's go home, let's reflect, let's absorb, I definitely need that like alone time too. But community has been really important for me, especially as a business owner where this is all new. I didn't go to school for business, right? I'm learning, researching and like figuring out how to do things and stuff myself, but being able to reach out to other business owners where it's like, okay, like what are you doing with this? Or, like everybody in the Midwest is sick right now. How are we handling cancels? And like how are we recouping these things and stuff like that? Just being able to reach out to people who are like going through it like you are, even if it's not the same
Mhm.
business,
Mhm.
right? Or like niche. But we all have the same constraints, right?
Yeah.
And I think just I don't know. It's been really great just tapping into that.
Mhm. Well, and that piece of that knowledge share, that
Mhm.
it's like very few entrepreneurs that I encounter actually went to school for business. They
Totally.
usually have the education in the skill that they're providing or the service they're providing. But like,
Yeah.
I took some courses in my first couple of years of college, but like that was kind of it. And that's like way dated at this
Yeah.
point. So like that knowledge share of,
Mhm.
how do we actually like run a business?
Right.
Things that like, sure, you can Google it all day long, but like, isn't
Totally.
it so much easier, but also like more fun?
Yeah.
Like just more enriching to have the conversation rather than,
Totally.
you know.
Well, I mean, we have finite amount of time, right? So, like,
Mhm.
how can we tap into other people's strengths? Like, I'm thinking of, I know a lot of pelvic physical therapists from around the nation that we've met at conferences, or we have maybe connections through business coaching or something like that. But being able to like text them and like, I know like certain business owners, pelvic PT specifically, they're like so good at community events or workshops or physician marketing or the back end nerdy stuff, that's me where I'm like,
Mhm.
I love me some analytics and spreadsheets and SEO. Like I love that stuff. And that's something new I've learned about myself in business, right? Where I'm like, I love numbers.
Yeah.
But it's cool to like lean into that. So like I was texting Pelly PT, one of my friends down in Florida, and like she's so good at physician marketing. Like she has these cute ideas and like she's just so good at it. And like that's something that I'm trying to grow in, you know what I mean? Where like for me, vulnerability is like going to a cold call office and being like, here's my
That
cards.
already made my
Yeah, right. I like a like soft, like, I know the nurse or
Mhm.
like, where it's like
Yeah.
a connection already. To me, that feels like more safe and like
Yeah.
I like that better rather than like it's so awful walking up and like going to all these physician offices with your little pamphlet. You drove all over Kingdom Come for it and you can never get past the front desk and they're just throw it in the pile with the other ones. You know what I mean? So like
Yeah.
that to me is not fun, and, like, that's something that as a business owner, I still have to do, right? But I have to find ways to do that one I feel good at, and they're efficient for me. But, like, being able to, like, message friends who are good at those things and, like, "How are you doing this?" And then, like, vice versa, like, I'll get text messages from pelvic therapy owners where they're like, "Wait, what are you doing with this?" Or, like, "How do I optimize that?" Or, and so it's just so nice to, like, quickly, like, share, like, our strengths rather than, like, starting from the ground, like,
Yeah.
0, you know?
Yeah. And probably in a way that's so much more accessible. It's
Yeah.
much easier when like you just have someone explaining it to you,
Yep.
firsthand, like already knowing to like maybe where you're at with your knowledge
Yep.
rather than like
Yeah.
trying to
Especially in our
find.
niche, right?
Yeah.
Like, it's just why not? Like, we should all be helping each other. So, I mean, we share handouts and, I did this workshop on this and it went great. Try that in your area, you know? So it's like, let's just, I don't know. That's the community, right?
Yeah. So have you, I think last time I talked to you, maybe the time before, you were focusing or trying to focus more in the infertility space,
Yeah,
correct?
personally myself, yeah.
Yeah.
Yep,
So how is that
it's great.
in that?
Yeah,
Okay.
yeah.
Okay.
So this is where it gets fun now, having a team where I can be a little bit more selective myself on like what is my passion and what fills my cup clinically. And I love working with pelvic pain, post C-section recovery because I've had 3, and fertility, right? So, like, those are my passions, and not to say that I'm not good or love treating the other things, right? But, like, when I get that, like, person in those buckets, I know that's, like, my jam, like, where I'm, like, really passionate about it. I have, I have personal experience with those things, and the infertility piece is newer, I would say, to pelvic PT. I will say that when people think about pelvic PT, they think about giggles and leaking. They don't think about, like, how can you help me with fertility, right? Um, but there was yeah. So it's, like, relatively, I would say, more commonplace or becoming more commonplace now. It's been going on. There have been people in the space of working on optimizing fertility, but I think that we're owning that a little bit more now. Um, in 2020 for a mentor in the field, Dr. Yanni Abraham, who's down in Texas. She came out and she was like, "Hey, I'm going to create a cohort. It's our first cohort of pelvic floor, like pelvic rehab fertility specialists." So it was a 3-month cohort of didactic work. Then we had to take a post exam. We had to write a case study on a patient that we were treating. And then a lab. We had to attend an in-person lab. So we were like tested off on the skill set that she would teach us. And then there's still like, we're active and keeping up with current research and what's going on in the world and what have you. But when that newsletter came out, or somehow I saw that on Instagram or something, I was like, I need to do this. Like, this is amazing and how empowering this can be. So I have been loving it. I think these stories have been like some of my most rewarding as a clinician personally, of just helping people walk through this like really awful time. Like that journey sucks, but being able to give them, you know, just help in this aspect of even just having someone who knows what the terms are, what the acronyms are, because there's so many, what to expect, like, what is it like going into that fertility clinic that first time for your consult with you and your partner or by yourself, right? Taking away some of that, like, scariness, right, of it, and just walking that journey with them has been really great. Um, I'm just really excited. Some of the first patients that I worked with are, you know, one's due any day now. And, we just got great news. Another patient is currently pregnant. So we're keeping an eye on that pregnancy. And I don't know, it's just like really rewarding when I get those messages of like, a patient and her partner had been trying to conceive naturally at home for over 18 months prior to starting with me. Nothing, never was able to get a home positive pregnancy test. And after less than 3 months of pelvic PT and hands-on and coaching and diet and exercise and I'm trained in like visceral manipulations, like organ mobilization to help with blood flow and lymphatics and stuff like that. I get the email on a Friday morning, hey, first home pregnancy test, right? So it's like,
Yeah.
man, that's amazing,
Yeah.
and then be able to walk that journey with them postpartum. Uh, and like truly say that like from conception to pregnancy to postpartum, I'm with them on that journey and just like holding that little baby at the end, when they come to visits with mama.
So what does it look like or like what types of things are you doing with fertility patients?
Yeah.
'Cause I imagine like that's not the first thing people think of when they
Yeah.
think of like pelvic.
Right. Well, it depends on where they're at in their journey, right? So I've worked with patients who are, unable to naturally conceive at home, and I'm like their first step, where they want to take more of a holistic approach. They don't want to dive into necessarily, testing and going and seeing a reproductive endocrinologist yet. They're like,
Yeah.
let's see what else I have options. So I get that some like early, cases. I'll get people who have started doing maybe some medicated cycles, right? Where they're looking at potentially timing things better for them, all the way to IUI, right? Intrauterine insemination, IVF, right? Actually taking the embryo out and then implanting it in. There's a whole gamut of fertility. So I can see people in different walks of that. So depending on where they come in and where they are, that changes the approach, right? But right away, things that I would look at is just like hearing their story. I think giving them space to share it right? Because it's not easy. And a lot of times people like keep that close where they're like, I don't want to tell my family at Thanksgiving that like when everyone's asking, oh, when are you having a baby? Like we've been trying actually, that sucks to hear. And so just giving them, holding the space, letting them tell their story is empowering for them. And then also just right away, just like education. What have you been doing? What supplements are you on? How's your workout, right? Sometimes it's coaching them to actually work out in different ways, right? So like some people might actually be exercising too hard, too heavy, hit and Zumba and impact and stuff like that. It drives up cortisol, right? And that's not a great environment to be pregnant.
Yeah.
Not to say they can't do that through pregnancy, but sometimes I actually have to coach people to like, let's do a more restorative. Let's think more Pilates or yoga or walking and stuff like that, right? Just to bring their nervous system out of that fight flight. So sometimes that education, we talk about diet, we talk about any medical history that could be impacting it. So do you have a history of, PCOS or painful periods, potentially, endometriosis or adenomyosis? Any surgeries to the abdomen or stomach or pelvis, right? So scar tissue can be a leading factor for infertility, especially from a mechanical side, that the blood flow is not doing what it's needing to do. Those reproductive organs can't do what they need to do. So we talk about any past medical history that could be part of it. And then we talk about like, what do they want, right? We're like, what do you want from this? Do you want me how, or I guess more so I'll ask them like, how many cycles do you feel comfortable doing this approach before we phone a friend? Right?
Yeah.
But giving them the choice, right? So like that patient who came to me, unable to conceive naturally for 18 months, right? And on paper, her and her partner should be able to, right? So it's like, where are we at with your time with how old you are, just like, where are you at? Are you at the end of the rope, right? So it's giving them that, like, I'm actually good to try this for like another 6 to 12 months. All right, I'm here for it. Let's do it. Or like, I'm actually hitting the end of my rope and I just want to be a little bit more aggressive in my plan of care. So I think it's just giving them the options, right? And I don't want to be like, here's a pamphlet for my favorite fertility doctor when they're like, whoa, So meeting them where they're at, giving them options. Um, but there's just, so much that we can do from like a hands-on perspective. So I do visceral manipulation or organ mobilization that can help with blood flow, lymphatics, overall productivity of that organ, right? And so for women, the ovaries and the uterus are really important in that. Pelvic floor muscles, if those are too tight, that can also impact overall blood flow and lymphatics, which can cause congestion in the pelvic region. So we work hands-on and getting into the abdominal pelvic area. We also bring in the vagus nerve and get that sympathetic parasympathetics up and get people out of that fight flight, right? Um, yeah,
Love that. That's such a holistic approach, which speaks my language.
yeah,
But also the most valuable piece and that feels really neat is that power.
Mhm.
And like not often do we walk into a medical setting and feel like we get that.
Totally,
Like not just being an advocate, but like being the director of your care.
right.
That's
Yeah.
incredible offer.
I think that too, like a lot of people, like to your point, they walk into a medical appointment and they're being told they'll be doing XYZ instead of like, here, I always say for pelvic PT, I'm like, we have a buffet of options. We can take a completely hands-off approach. We can take an external approach. We can take an internal approach. You have all these options, no pressure. I'm here to support you, right? And we can pick them when we want them,
Yeah.
right? So it's like giving them the power, gaining that trust, especially in pelvic PT. You have to have trust with your pelvic therapist because it's intimate work, right? And it's sometimes uncomfortable,
Yeah.
right? So it's right away just being like, hey, I'm coaching you through this. I'm giving you the tools to heal yourself. I think that's empowering too, where like, I'm not fixing you. I'm giving you the tools to fix yourself, right? This is a you journey. Yeah.
I love that. I love how the through line of all of your work, and I just feel like your personality, which is probably why I just like gravitate, is like that empowerment. It's like empowering yourself, empowering your patient,
Yeah.
community, your family.
Yeah. I did one of my first visceral courses I took a couple years ago. The mentor that I had, the instructor of the course, she's just like one of those like amazing humans where you're just like, you just want to be around her all the time. She's like an addict, And she was teaching the course, and we had our first chance to be like hands-on, right? So we just got all of the anatomy and why and what we're going to do. And then it's like your first time touching your partner, like your lab partner. And she like, everybody's like getting ready to like do the thing. And we worked on the liver first. It was like a massive heavy organ, right? And we're like, yes, we're going to do it. And then she was like, okay, everybody put your hands down, ground yourself, close your eyes. And she like walked us through with this like affirmation of, and this word I've seen her since that initial course, because I've taken numerous courses with her now. And I'll tell her that I'm like, Kelly, like this statement that you said sits with me, and every time I touch a patient, I say this in my head, not out loud. But her mantra was, I release the need to succeed. And that hits for me because I want to help people, right? As a new PT, I fix people, right? Now that I've been in it for a little bit more time, it's like, no, right? Like I'm a tool for their body to heal itself, right? So it takes that pressure off of me, where I used to go home and like, why can't I get that person better? You know what I mean? But I'm seeing them for an hour of their whole week, right? And I was putting a lot of pressure on myself in that way, where I'm like, I can only influence them for that hour, right? At the end of the day, they have to take everything I said and take that and approach at home, right? So I release the need to succeed has always been a mantra that I say prior to doing anything, especially my visceral mobilization, because it's very much like intuitive and energy and listening to the body and seeing how the body's responding to what I'm inputting into it, right? Um, but I think that has been, I don't know, like a good reframing for me, I guess, as a PT.
Well, I love it. I feel like a service provider, any service provider, could really take that to heart. That it's not about
Us.
fixing or,
Yeah.
take the ego out of it.
Mm-hmm.
That it's really about
Them.
empowering the other person
Yeah.
to be able to do
Yeah.
work.
Yeah. So it's things that like I will do little micro shifts in patients where they're coming, they're like, can you fix this? And I'll like, no. And they look at me, right? I'm like, but I'll teach you how you can fix it yourself, right? And I tell people, I'm like, PTs, and I know other PTs say this too, of just like, we're trying to work ourselves out of a job, actually, right? Where like my goal of working with a client or a patient is when they are through whatever we're working on and we're in a maintenance phase or we're in a see you later, right? Like we don't do discharges, we do like, I'll see you when you need me again, right? But my goal is that they have so many tools and education and ways to help themselves. But if they get into a little flare or something pops up, they're like, Erika gave me all these things that I can do for myself, and I'm going to walk through all of them. And if none of them work, she told me I could reach out. Right? It's like that, where like I don't want patients to rely on me. I want to go on vacation and not feel like patients are like jonesing for me to get back. You know what I mean? Where I'm like, no, like we're doing it. Like I'm giving you the tool set to do it.
Yeah.
Right.
I love it. So I just leave found
Yeah.
because I love like that type of conversation. But it's something that you wanted to make sure we talk about today that you haven't got.
I think the big thing is just like if anybody is listening and has either like experienced any type of pelvic floor dysfunction in their life and chalked it up to being normal, or this is just what I have to deal with, like knowing that's not true, right? Like there's people out there. Tap into your community of resources, ask your medical provider, get into those moms groups. Those moms groups are a gem, right? Of just like ask those questions, because there's help for what you're dealing with. And I know every patient that comes into Envision, the first thing they always say is, hey, I wish I had done this sooner, right? I wish I knew about this sooner. So one, like know that what you're dealing with isn't normal, right? It's common, but not normal. That's the phrase, right? There is help for it. You just have to find the right person, right? And even if you think you found the right person, you're still dealing with it, find another person, right? I think that is true too. Sometimes we do get patients who are like, we're their second, third, fourth, fifth therapist, right? And it's not to say those therapists before weren't good people or had good skill sets, but that might not have been the right time for that body in front of them, right? So keep trying, get to the results, keep advocating for yourself, and then spread the word, right? Of just like, if you went to pelvic PT and you had this great experience, like share it, because somebody in line with you at the coffee shop might be dealing with the same thing, like normalizing all these things that like everybody walking around. He's poops and has sex, right?
Perfect. So tell people where they can find you.
Yeah, so Envision Pelvic Health and Wellness, located in the Norwood Park neighborhood of Chicago. So we're in that very northwest corner of Chicago, right near Park Ridge, Illinois. And so that's where our physical space is. We are also online, so pretty active on social media. We have Instagram at Envision Pelvic Health and Wellness. Website is a wealth of knowledge too. I like to write, so if you like that's voice message. I like to blog. So I often will put out a few blogs a month that are also in that kind of theme of like, you're dealing with XYZ, this is what you can do. But yeah, so we're on website. That's where we are physically. On social media. We also do a lot of community things. So we're always hosting workshops, events, talks. We're at a lot of things. Like my big thing is like empowering the community and being out there. So we'll always share that stuff via our newsletter you can sign up for on the website, or through social media. We're always posting like, hey, we're going to pop up here, or we're doing an event on XYZ. So those are good ways to just keep an eye on what we're doing.
Yeah. For people that are curious and wanting to like get a taste, meet you, meet Dr.
Yeah.
Allison, meet Dr. Kelly, like all the events and like everything that you do, it's a really great, accessible way to get to know you guys. Because you show up just genuinely and real everywhere you go.
Yeah.
So I feel like those
Thank
events
you.
and then the different things you post at your office just give people a great taste.
Yeah. And then we do discovery calls as well. So we do offer a free 15-minute discovery call that patients can call, and either if they have clinical specific questions, the clinician is happy to set up a 15-minute call. So Mandy, our patient care coordinator, can put a block on our schedule, and we're happy to make that call. If you're like, I'm dealing with this, I don't know if this is the right time. Should I do something else before, or what have you? So Dr. Allison, Dr. Kelly, and myself will do discovery calls with people. Or if it's just like, hey, I just have questions of like logistics, scheduling, how can I use my out of network reimbursement? How much does this cost? Can I use FSA? Yes, you can. Stuff like that, right? Mandy is a wealth of knowledge, and she tends to filter a lot of that stuff for us. But that is also something that I think, it's an investment of time, it's an investment of finances and trust, right? So being able to offer someone a little bit of assurance before they commit to coming in, right? Of being like, hey, I'm happy to jump on the call with you and just like give you my 2 cents. And if I can't help you, or I don't think this is going to be good, I'm also going to tell you that.
I love that transparency.
Mm.
Well, thank you.
Thank you for having me.
So wonderful. I could honestly go on.
Yeah. Thank you.
Thank you for tuning into this episode of Rising Together, Local Women Leading Differently. If you enjoyed this episode, I invite you to sign up for my Love Notes newsletter, which is your weekly surge of empowerment and inspiration with a heavy dose of realness from my own journey of rising. You can sign up at emmamulvaney.com/newsletter. Until next time, remember, we all rise higher when we're rising together.